We are good to go. Thank you everybody for coming today, and especially to our speakers for being willing to talk for us today. And my Zoom background changed, didn't it? Okay, well, it's gonna be Avatar now. First up, I think we're going to have Dr. Faupel from the Office of International Education and Development talk about some of the study abroad programs that we have here at App to go to Japan, and some of the scholarships, I think, as well. So whenever you're ready.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen if that's all right. Oh no, it says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh goodness. Let's see if I can fix that really fast. I have not actually been in charge of a Zoom meeting before, so.
Oh, this is so fun. I feel like every time I'm in a Zoom meeting, I learn more things about how it functions.
All right, you should be able to.
Yes, okay. Oh, you figured that one out really quickly. So the presentation that I'm sharing with you is I customized our typical Study Abroad 101 presentation. So if you've attended one of those before, then some of the information is going to be the same, but then I put some specific stuff for Japan. To introduce myself, I'm Chrissie Faupel. I'm the Director of Education Abroad in OIED. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the study abroad programs, and then also a few specifics about scholarships that are for studying abroad and scholarships that are for studying abroad in Japan. There's a lot of money out there, so I want to make sure that people are aware of it. So to begin with, I just want to give you a quick overview of our different types of programs. We have, gosh, I don't know, about 1,500 different study abroad programs, and just that alone can be really overwhelming for students. So it's easier to break them up into program types so you have a little bit of a better understanding of how they work. So the first type is sort of our classic exchange. So Logan went on our exchange program with Kansai Gaidai. There's 3 different tiers of exchanges, and it depends on what exactly you're paying that's pinned to App State tuition or housing and meals. So if you do a basic exchange, you are going to continue paying your regular rate of tuition. If you're an in-state student, you continue to pay in-state tuition. If you're an out-of-state student, you continue to pay out-of-state tuition. Our partial exchanges are where you pay your regular rate of App State tuition plus the regular rate, what you're paying for your housing, and then your meals will be at the cost of the host institution abroad. And then the full exchange is going to be your regular rate of tuition, room, and board. And then any incidentals, or if you like to travel, or airfare and things like that will be a separate cost. I actually don't know off the top of my head if Kansai is a full exchange or basic exchange. Do you remember, Logan?
I believe it was a full.
Okay, great. I think you're right, actually, yes. Because we're working with them right now for students who want to study with them next semester virtually. We're sort of figuring out how that works if it's a full exchange. So, all right, so that's our exchanges. There is sort of maybe a misunderstanding that our exchanges are always going to be the best financial deal for students, and that's not necessarily the case, but it's often the case if you're an in-state student. We also have affiliates that we work with, and these are like study abroad companies that help to facilitate the study abroad process for our students. If you've come across any of these affiliates, then you know they're like the alphabet soup of the study abroad world. It's CEA and CIEE. We actually have 2 of them that have the exact same letters, just jumbled up. There's SAI and ISA. So that can be a little bit confusing, but just know that each of them, if we work with about 12 to 15 different affiliates, each affiliate in turn works in about 20 different countries. And so this is really our way to extend our reach around the world. And it's also our way to get our students to study in some destinations that are maybe considered less traditional study abroad destinations. So for example, we have exchanges that operate in Japan. We also have quite a few affiliates that operate there as well. The way that the financial aspect works is that they have their own program fee, and it's not tied to App State tuition at all because they're working with undergraduate students all across the country. So they have a set program fee that almost always includes tuition, housing. Sometimes it includes meals and sometimes a couple of extra bells and whistles. And usually the more bells and whistles that are included, the higher the program fee. Again, there's this other misunderstanding that affiliates are always going to be more expensive, and that's not necessarily the case. We have one in particular that is usually about equal to App State in-state tuition, and in some cases even less. It's really dependent on what the cost of living is in the country that students are studying in. We also have some affiliates that are like incredibly expensive. One, if you've heard of Semester at Sea, that travels to like 13 or 12 or 13 different ports of stop along the way. You're on a ship the whole time. It's like $30,000 a semester. It's crazy expensive. If you go that route, then yes, you're going to be paying more than you're used to paying here at App. We have another one called ISEP, which stands for International Student Exchange Program. And this is kind of a fun mix between exchange and affiliate. They are an affiliate. They're a third-party provider themselves, but they operate like an exchange in that you are paying your regular rate of tuition, and it operates like a full exchange. Actually, it's your regular rate of tuition, room and board. And then there's often an option to do ISEP direct instead, which means that instead of being tied to App State tuition, you're paying whatever the host university charges, which in many cases is less than what we charge here at App. As you know, the US has some of the highest rates of tuition around the world. So that's ISEP. And that's another way that we can really get students to go almost anywhere in the world. They really operate in, I should know the exact number, I don't know, but they have a lot of different programs around the world. We also there are some ISEP programs in Japan. So I think of the cohort of students that applied to study abroad next semester, the vast majority of them applied to do the Kansai program. We have a couple that applied for an exchange program called Ritsumeikan, and then the rest of them applied to do an ISEP program in Japan. All right, and then faculty-led programs as well. App is fairly well known for its portfolio of faculty-led programs, fairly well known in the education abroad world, if that matters to anybody. In a typical academic year, we'll run close to or even more than 70 different programs. This summer, we're going to be running about 20 to 25. So this is definitely decreased as a result of the pandemic, as a result of not just students being a little bit more cautious about traveling abroad, but faculty as well. So what this means is that there is an App State faculty member who is teaching an App State course with a cohort of App State students, just teaching it in another country. So we have programs that come from all different departments across campus. And imagine any time there's a break between semesters, these will run. So summer is the most common time, summer 1 or summer 2. We usually have quite a few over the spring break, some over winter break, and usually 1, maybe 2 over fall break. Okay, and then these are some of the less common ones, but just wanted to throw this out there. There is a program we call IST, International Student Teaching. So for our education majors who have a requirement to do a portion of student teaching for 15 weeks, the IST program allows those students to do 10 weeks in a North Carolina classroom and then their last 5 weeks at one of our institutions abroad. That's on hiatus right now, but they're hoping to pick back up the IST program pretty soon, I think, maybe by fall. And then we also have a lot of different internships, and usually these are facilitated through our affiliates, but for students who either need to get internship credit or want to, then there are ways to do that internationally with an international company. I should have also given my apology at the beginning of this presentation that I didn't modify the pictures. So these pictures are coming from all over the world, not just Japan. All right, so I wanted to highlight just a couple of programs so you can see the breadth of options that exist in Japan. So of course I have to highlight Kansai Gaidai, which is one of our more popular exchange programs, the one that Logan participated in not too long ago. So they have a particular program called the Asian Studies program, and it's an exchange, so it operates in that you are paying your regular rate of tuition to App State. And I pulled out a couple of the sample courses that they have. Their courses just look so cool. And so these are just 3 of the ones that popped out to me, but they just have a huge list of courses that are really very fascinating. We work with an affiliate called USAC, or University Studies Abroad Consortium, and USAC actually tends to be one of our most cost-effective programs. So they're the ones that if somebody is like, I need to get exactly equal to what I'm used to paying at App State, or I need to save a little bit of money when I study abroad, then we'll usually start by looking at USAC. So they have this one particular program in Nagasaki, and I pulled out a couple of their sample programs as well that particularly spoke to me, but they have quite a few. A number of our affiliates can operate in a number of ways in terms of courses. Oftentimes they'll partner with a local university. So you can see the university here, I spelled out of what university they're partnering with. So that would be the host institution. Sometimes they'll also operate where they offer their own courses. So I think with this one, while you can take courses at the local university, USAC also hires local professors to then teach what they call USAC courses. So you can usually get a pretty good mix of courses that are the affiliate courses, and then also enroll at an international institution as if you are an international student. Okay, so I mentioned ISEP, the International Student Exchange Program. So this is one of their programs that runs in Tokyo at Toyo University. And I pulled out some of their sample courses. So again, with this one, you would have the option to either enroll as an exchange, so paying your regular rate of tuition, room and board, or you can opt to do a direct option. And that would be where you're paying the Toyo tuition, whatever charge that they've set out. We do have some students as well who have to go the direct option for other reasons. So one example that immediately springs to mind is for our students who are either veterans or military affiliated students, and they want to use their veteran benefits to study abroad. They have to pay their tuition directly to the university that owns the course, meaning teaches the course. So they can't do an exchange and get their benefits certified. They would have to opt for the direct option. So this is also a great way to have that opportunity for those types of students. All right, and then one last one. This is one of our exchange programs with Tsumeikan. This is probably our second most popular exchange program in Japan. I again pulled out a couple of their sample courses. So we just have a really close partnership with them as well. I think that's the last of the highlights. Okay, so we'll hop into the funding your program portion. So the first thing that I want to say is that pretty much any financial aid that you already received to study abroad at App can travel with you when you study abroad. So certainly any loans that you receive. Also, if you receive a scholarship either from the state, from the university, then that will travel with you. I haven't yet come across a scholarship that won't travel with you. Perhaps if there's like an outside scholarship, like some local nonprofit in your hometown gives you a scholarship to come study here at App, you would have to check with them to see if it applies. But I confirmed with financial aid at our Education Abroad Fair the other week that in fact, they also don't know of any scholarships that will not travel with you when you go abroad. So you can count on that aid to help fund your program. On top of that, well, something I didn't mention here, there are a lot of departments on campus that will offer their own scholarships for studying abroad because there's a lot of buy-in across campus. Many of our departments understand the importance of that global and comparative and international perspective of your discipline. And so they're willing to help fund your way. So there's that. OIED, my office, also has a lot of money that we want to give away to students. We want to put these resources into the hands of students. So a typical OIED scholarship is anywhere from $250 to $2,000. We have, gosh, I want to say there's about 10 to 12 scholarships that we have, but we've made it easy on our applicants. You complete one application and then we will match you to the scholarship that you're the most eligible for and that you'd get the most money for. So if you're going abroad for a longer term, like a full semester, then you're probably more likely to get the larger amount of money. If you're going abroad for a shorter term, you're probably more likely to get that smaller amount of money. Okay, so then there's some Japan-specific scholarships. One is called the Freeman Asia. That's anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 for your study abroad program. Freeman Asia, it's they say that they want to fund high financial need students. But at least the last that I was aware of this, they don't ask you for any documentation. Like they're administered by an organization called IIE, the Institute for International Education. IIE also administers another program called the Gilman Scholarship, which we love to promote because that's also for high financial need students. For that actually has to get certified by a financial aid advisor to say, yes, this student is a Pell Grant recipient or they are Pell eligible. That's how we prove that they're high financial need. But Freeman Asia, as far as I know, you don't have to provide that certification. So I guess they leave it up to you to determine if you're high financial need or not. And I imagine most students would say, yes, I'm very high financial need. So a lot of money. And the way it works is this family, the Freeman family, is really dedicated to getting students to Asia to almost any Asian country, but certainly Japan is included there. And so they just want to get you to Asia, basically. There's another scholarship called Bridging Scholarships. I think the full name is like Bridging Scholarships for Japan or something like that. That one, they offer a $2,500 stipend to help you with your costs. And then as we were chatting about a little bit earlier, there's the Critical Language Scholarship, which is a really cool government scholarship. You know, the federal government has a lot of incentive to cultivate citizens that are fluent in other languages and other cultures for their own interests. And so they're putting in a lot of funding to help students get abroad to spend, I think, 10 weeks over the summer in another country to study what the government deems to be a critical need language. And Japanese is one of those. So the components of the program are that you spend intensive 20 hours a week in language courses throughout the week. You also are paired with a native speaker where you spend time one-on-one speaking in your target language. In fact, you have to take a pledge that that you will only speak in your target language during the duration of the program. And then there's also extra excursions, cultural excursions and things like that to complement the studies. So there's a lot of money out there, and my office is always more than happy to talk with you about how to get your hands on that money. There's also a sort of an office, sort of an initiative called Nationally Competitive Scholarships. And I say sort of an office because there's a dedicated position there, but they're housed in the Honors College. And we're actually in the process of hiring, I say we, I'm on the search committee, but I'm not involved in the office at all, to be hiring the assistant director for that. So very soon, hopefully by next semester, there will be an assistant director of Nationally Competitive Scholarships who is a dedicated person to help you apply for these scholarships. All right, I believe that's it. Oh, just to say that if you do want to chat about study abroad opportunities, we host walk-in hours every Wednesday and Thursday from 2 to 4. You're welcome to just drop by. Otherwise, we can always set up a scheduled appointment for a time that works for you. And we have a lot of folks in the office that can meet with you. All right. Thank you so much for letting me present.
Yes, and thanks so much for speaking for us. And I actually wanted to ask, do you have a link to that PowerPoint presentation so that I can post it in the chat if anyone wants to access it at a later time?
Absolutely. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll make it that anybody can access it because I think it's closed right now. So I'll do that real quick and then share it in the chat. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to our next speaker?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Chrissie. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry that I joined a little bit late. I had the meeting and just came back home. And I have a couple of questions about the study abroad with like Japanese partner university right now that my students are really concerned about because one it's canceled and like, okay. Question is like a student saying like, okay, can we get in next year?
Yeah.
Next year? Do you have some ideas like how the situation is?
Yeah, question of the moment right now. So was that there was a big media hype about the Japanese government starting to do student visas, and everybody got really excited because we had students, I'm sure you know, we've had students who have deferred semester who are just really raring to go, and they're running out of time now because they're nearing the end of their college tenure. So we know for sure that Kansai Gaidai is not able to host any students on site. They're offering virtual classes.
Okay, that sounds good. You know,
that is good.
They have you know,
they have something.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the reason that we know their situation a little bit earlier than some of our other partners is because they start a lot earlier than some of our other. So they have the January or February start date. We haven't heard definitively from any of our other partners, including ICEP, including Ritsumeikan. I think the hope is that because those have a later start date, maybe there's time to process those visas, but we're just trying to confirm with a few people before we send out our own recommendation to because we all want to be really, really hopeful, as I'm sure you do as well. But if it turns out that those students aren't able to study abroad, then they're kind of stuck in a tough position where they have to get housing at the last minute and enroll in and things like that. So hopefully by the end of the week, students who haven't yet heard from us will hear from us with our official recommendation. So yeah, it's so, and I feel so terrible. And I know it's, you know, it's not nobody's fault, but I feel so terrible, especially for those students who, you know, somebody who's even been deferring from spring 2020.
Idea.
So a long time now to be waiting to study abroad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, coming at me with the tough questions.
And I actually want to follow up with that. So the announcement is for this spring semester and not necessarily for next year, like fall, spring, correct?
Right. I am, goodness, I am quite certain, but I guess one can never be certain about anything. But now the government is issuing student visas by fall and even next, spring of 2023, everything should be back on track. The way that they're going about it is because they have so many visa applications, they're just going to start in order. So if they have, whoever they've been able to issue that first certificate of eligibility for, they're just going to start sort of chronologically. So by next fall, I'm hoping that they'll be back on track.
And another question I can ask, how about the like a student from Japan, can they come to ASU to study abroad? Even though that I understand that we can't send a student because of the visa issue, but like United States is open to that, like if
certainly. If they're able to get out and come study here, certainly. With our exchanges, we have to keep a fairly close how many we send out and how many we bring in. But knowing how popular Japan is, we are 100% confident that we will always be able to send students out and catch up on any imbalance there. So we bring students in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, does anyone have any other questions? All right. Then Dr. Faupel, like I said, if you can share the PowerPoint slides with us when you get the chance, that would be great. Thank you. And then we will be moving on to our next speaker then. So Ms. Misa Yamamoto will be talking about the JET program. And she is from the Department of Language, I'm forgetting the whole name.
Language and Literature and Culture. And I think one of my former students, Logan, he studied abroad in Japan and also participated in JET, right? Yeah. So maybe he can answer a couple of questions. Okay, let me share the like lots of my students, they are interested in this program, especially like after they studied abroad and they like Japan so much and they want to get a job in Japan. And this is one of the programs that I always recommend to my students. And basically that the JET program is employment opportunity. It's different from study abroad, but you work in Japan as a mostly like a assistant teacher and English teacher, but also you'll be culture ambassador, so that study abroad experience is very, very good. So I recommend the student who wants to get in this program, recommend that study abroad, very, very good, And the JET program position has like 3 different positions. One is assistant language teacher. Basically what you do is like you are employed by the Board of Education in Japan, and you work as an English language teacher in local public schools. And right now that elementary schools really needs a teacher. So if you are interested in teaching at elementary level, this is really good. And also coordinator for international relations. This is a little bit different from ALT position. Most of the JET participants, like 90% is assistant language teacher, but this one, coordinator for international relations, this is a little bit like challenging job because you have to be fluent in Japanese, and what you do is like you are basically like a translator or interpreter when you have a guest from foreign countries, and in order to get in this program, of course, study abroad and also fluent in Japanese, and I always recommend student will take a JLPT test. This one. This one proves that, if you get the highest level 1, then that is equivalent to the native speakers level. And if you get level 2, that's also okay too. So in order to get into this position, you have to have at least level 2. And while you are in study abroad, I recommend students will take this test, especially in July, because in United States, most of the time the student can take the test is December, which is in the middle of the final exam, and they always student miss this opportunity. So if you are in Japan during the summer, take this test, okay? And another thing is a sports exchange advisor, but this is very, very rare. I never had a student, got into this program from ASU at least. And okay, timeline for this JET program is application is open around September, end of September, and the deadline is mid-November. So you have a couple of several weeks to work on the application. And then you will have, once you pass the first screening process, then you will be invited for the interview, which is in February. Then result will be announced March, May, depending on your I think, I don't know, depending on the consulate, I think. And you have orientation and the departure. And I think this first process, application is very, very important. And there are lots of things that the JET program is looking for from this application. And if you get the 50 points, everybody will be invited to the next level. And I'm going to, let me see if I can. Okay, so this is application. And when you look at the questions, there are a lot of areas they want to see. And each question has a points, So I tell the student, okay, do not leave any question unanswered. You have to fill in, in order to get the points. Let's see if I could. Okay, maybe I can say. Okay, so here that the school and major preference is English or anthropology, but any major is okay. If you're not majoring in anthropology or English, it's okay. You can get the points in other areas. And next part is employment. And if you have a lot of experience, like it doesn't have to be full-time, part-time is okay too, something that relates to the interaction with people, and you can show that you have a great interpersonal skills, that will be very good. So try to find the, work experience that fit into JET program's goal, So for example, like a camp counselor would be good, and babysitting, like volunteer work as, not volunteer, but maybe like a kindergarten teacher or something like that. Okay, and the next part is teaching experience. This is one of the hardest student found. Okay, I don't have any formal teaching experience. So, like I tell the student, okay, try to find some kind of formal teaching experience. And lots of departments, they have a course called instructional assistant. So if you have a chance, talk to your professor and get this experience, because this has a lot of points too. And next one is other teaching experience. This doesn't have to be formal, like for example, like you are in the Japanese culture club and you do the lecture every week, that's count as a teaching experience. And other things maybe like you tutor, private tutor English to non-native speaker of English, for example, like international student on campus, that is a big plus too, you know. And also, let me go back here. I think, this part, I think lots of our partner universities in Japan, like Kansai Gaidai, Okayama University, and Ritsumeikan, they offer like part-time jobs to students. So if you could get those part-time job on campus, you know, that will be good too. I mean, of course, you know, like your focus should be on study, but if you have extra time, you know, that will be good. And also teacher training. If you are education major, that will be no problem, you know, you can just put all those courses that you took for the education, your major. And here, that the proper, this is very, very important too, like your career plan, you know, JET is not the like permanent job. So you have to have some kind of clear future plan, okay, how you want to use this experience to your future real career, you know. And also, like all those courses that you take, study abroad or on campus. And here that the international experience, so if you have study abroad, you could put your you know, study abroad experience. It doesn't have to be in Japan, but if it's that it's Japan, then it's a more point here. Also, it says like also international experience at the home. That means like, for example, like international OIED is hosting International Education Week, you know, and if you participate those events and you run or you organize some kind of workshop events related to international experience, then you can put down those experience here, okay? And I think also like a scholarship, you apply this OID scholarship or other scholarships to study abroad in Japan. And if you get it, then write it down here. And also like leadership quality here. So if you do like JCC, Japanese Culture Clubs, officers or volunteer work, then write it down here. Okay, and other things, I think that's okay. Logan, do you have anything to add to this? Like your experience or
with the application?
Application or like JET, like life or your teaching, like a interesting story or something?
Yes, so I'll start with the application. Really, I just want to say that Yamamoto sensei she's very humble, because actually her letter, Yamamoto sensei's letter of recommendation is one of the best letters you can get. So definitely, if you're in Yamamoto sensei's class, do a really good job. So she'll write you a good letter, but she writes everyone a good letter, so don't worry. And Yamamoto sensei is a really good coach to help people get into the program. So maybe you can see as she went through the application, has very knowledgeable about what they're looking for. And Yamamoto sensei gets a lot of students in. So I would strongly recommend you to, if you're interested in JET program, you can talk with Yamamoto sensei if she has time, because she's a really good coach and a good person to talk to about it, to help you get in. But the application, I would strongly recommend that you start early. There's a lot of forms that you have to get. I think maybe like a background check, maybe your transcript or some, I don't remember all the things that you have to get, but and you have to write a letter and get letters of recommendation for the JET program. And there's requirements for the study abroad as well. So regardless of which one you want to do, start early, start earlier than you think that you're going to need to, because you don't want to be running up against like the very deadline and then something doesn't come in and then, so just start early is my recommendation for that. So I studied abroad at Kansai Gaidai for 4 months in 2012 in the fall. And it's a really good opportunity because if you do the full exchange, I think it's about the same price as if it's about the same price as the App State tuition. So it's not going to cost you a whole bunch more money to go, especially if you go to Kansai Gaidai. It's a really good chance. I don't know about the other exchanges, but I'm sure those are excellent as well. At Kansai Gaidai, you have 2 opportunities, and one is to do a homestay with a family, and one is you can stay in the dorms. Of course, this is maybe for the virtual semester, it might be a little bit different. But if you are going like a year from now in the fall, you can choose between the dorm or the homestay. So I did the stay in the dorm, the international dorm, which was really nice because I could meet a lot of students from all over the world. So that was really interesting to hear all of those different perspectives. But there's a part of me that wishes, the grass is always greener, right? So there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wonder what it would have been like to do the homestay. So I think the homestay is a really unique opportunity. And if you have the chance to stay with a Japanese family, I would recommend that you give that a try. Because it's a really unique opportunity. It's a really good chance to do that. But it just depends, right? What you're looking for. If you're looking for that kind of small sort of personal experience, maybe the homestay, or if you're looking to get to know people from all over the world, maybe the dorm is a better option. It just kind of depends. And if you want, also your home family might have some rules that they want you to follow, like be home at a certain time or things like that. So if you want to go explore Japan or be out late, maybe think about that, because when you're staying in their home, you need to be respectful of their rules and home when they ask you to be home. So just kind of consider, which is going to be the best for you. But one thing about the study abroad is that your classes are pass-fail. So you should, now don't take this the wrong way, you should really study hard because it's a really good opportunity to learn while you're in the country. However, if you're like me, you're probably gonna really enjoy your time over there and you're gonna have a lot of fun. So maybe if you have too much fun and maybe you do poorly on a test because you were having fun in Tokyo that weekend, maybe you can kind of relax because so that part of it is really nice so that you can enjoy your time and not be so stressed about getting straight A's while you're there. But still, yeah, hypothetically, of course. But still study hard and do a good job. I took 5 classes while I was over there. So I took at Kansai Gaidai, I took reading and writing Japanese was one. Speaking Japanese, it was another. The history of Japan, I actually still have the book that they had us read. I took a visual anthropology class of Japan, which was wonderful. And I also took a sexuality and culture of Japan. And this is what the textbooks looks like at Kansai Gaidai. They have these textbooks, which are they have like all of these readings in them for you to read. And when you leave, they let you take the textbooks. So I still have mine. I still read them sometimes. So because I'm kind of nerdy, but Kansai Gaidai is really good. I don't know if they still do the textbooks like this, but they used to. And so the study abroad was really nice. And I'm going to talk about JET in just a second. So I'm going to break my time into both. But study abroad, that was my first time going overseas. And so, or really going out of the country. And I was pretty nervous, I'll be honest. And and it's a big commitment. It's to go for 4 months. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go for a week, right? It's 4 months. And if you've never been away, sometimes there's some things that can come up like homesickness or culture shock. I know about maybe 1 or 2 months in, I kind of hit that, like the culture shock kind of thing. But then you work through it and it really makes you grow as a person and just, you kind of, it's kind of like a wave or phase, or it was for me anyway. But so somewhere around the middle, I hit that sort of homesickness, but then I kind of like really embraced the culture and just started to really appreciate my time there. And by the time I left, I was so sad to leave. I didn't want to come back, of course. But if you're thinking about studying abroad, I would really, or the JET program, I would strongly recommend that you do it because it changed my life, genuinely changed my life. And I think it will for you as well. So because it really changed my perspective, and especially, Americans were kind of notorious for not leaving the country enough, or exploring other cultures enough. And so it really kind of opened my eyes and changed my perspective that there's a whole world out there. No, it sounds kind of cheesy, but sure. Could I explain the dorm experience? Yes. So I lived in the international dorm with students from all over the world. I had a roommate who was also from America, and there were some Japanese students living in the dorm, but it was mostly for my dorm, it was international students. Now I think they had 4 different dorms, 3 or 4 maybe, and one of the dorms had more Japanese students in it, but I was randomly placed in one that had less, but that's okay because there's plenty of opportunities to meet Japanese students and get to know them. There was a communal kitchen, and actually the dormitory was really nice. I had like the traditional tatami mat floors, and you slept on a futon with like the little sliding rice paper walls. No, the wall was a regular wall, but there was like a traditional Japanese style. It was really nice. In a big communal kitchen with like a big fridge. They had a big cooktop where lots of stoves and ranges and ovens and refrigerators for you to use. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story because it got really cold in December. And so I thought it would be a good idea I was really lazy and I didn't want to go downstairs to the refrigerator. And it snowed. So I took my gyoza from the kombini, which is like the gas station better. So I took my gyoza and I put it outside, like out the window in the snow which is really bad. Maybe don't do this. But in the morning, I reached out to like grab the gyoza and there were like crows eating my gyoza that had like torn up my kombini bag. So, I guess I should have known that was going to happen, but yeah, maybe don't do that. Maybe go downstairs to the refrigerator. But so I stopped doing that after that. But the dormitory is really nice, and there is we had like a Japanese, very nice, very polite, like Japanese obachan, which means like grandma. So she was like the grandma of the dorm. So she was the dorm director, and she was always there to support you and answer your questions if you needed anything. But the dormitory was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Just getting to meet people from all over the world. There were people from Brazil and Russia and all over Europe and all over the US. And you just had a chance to meet so many people that you would never get to meet normally. So that opportunity was really nice. Any other questions about the dorm or Kansai or?
What made you decide, like, out of all of the Japanese programs, to go to Kansai?
That's a great question. So I really I just wanted to go. I just wanted to study abroad. And so had been studying with Yamamoto sensei since my first semester studying Japanese. And so I heard about the opportunity with the International Exchange Department. And it's just, I don't know. It was really kind of just, I went and I heard about it. So I sounded good. So I just signed up. I guess I could have gone to any of the programs. They all sounded good, but I just maybe kind of randomly picked Kansai Gaidai, and it turned out really good.
Yamamoto sensei, I think you're muted.
I do this all the time. Like I think of when Logan studied abroad, it was like almost like, I don't know, 10 years ago. There were not so many study abroad opportunities except the Kansai Gaidai and other schools. But I think thanks to OIED, we have so many now, So I think our student will have lots of the choice, and they have to think about, okay, which one would be good. And I think OID's advisors, Katie and Evan, they're really wonderful to explain everything to my students. So.
And one other thing that I think is important to say for Kansai Gaidai, I don't know about the other universities, but at Kansai Gaidai, I stayed for 1 semester, but you can actually extend your stay to a 2nd semester. But for Kansai Gaidai, you have to have good grades to do that. You have to, I think it's like you have to have A's and B's. So if you really enjoy your study abroad, maybe it's going to be difficult for you to extend your stay, if you get what I'm saying. So maybe think about that. If maybe you think, oh, maybe I want to stay for a full year, and you're at Kansai Gaidai, make sure that you have the good grades so that you have that opportunity available to you, because it's only available if they see that you're serious about studying. Then they will let you apply to do another semester. If you want, I can talk about the JET program, if you want me to talk about that. Okay, so the JET program, after I studied abroad in Japan for 4 months, I wanted to go back, but I had to come back and finish my degree. So I came back and finished, and I applied, and Yamamoto sensei really helped me with the application. But it's a long process, a very long process. You apply the deadline is in November, and then you have the interviews are in February, and you have to drive down to Atlanta, and then you don't find out I stayed the night in a hotel the night before, and I was so nervous. I think I got like 1 hour of sleep. And then you don't find out till like March. It's so long. And then you get that, and you're checking your email like every day. I mean, you're checking your email the day after the interview, even though you know it's not coming for another month, you still check it, because you have to, right? But then you get the email, and it's like, you find out that you get in, and then you're wondering like where you want to go. And actually, I really strongly recommend you to do some research about Japan, about where you want to go, because in the interview they will ask you. You can do your top 3 choices. So it was kind of funny because I didn't really know, so I just told them, just anywhere, just somewhere I can get to all the major cities. So they put me in Shizuoka, which is sort of in the middle of Honshu, the main island, and it was exactly what I asked for. I could get to Osaka, Kyoto, Nara, Kobe, Tokyo, very easily. So it was great. And Shizuoka ended up being beautiful. I loved it. But if you have something specific in mind, like you can go to Hokkaido and experience the snow in the Yuki Matsuri, that's a snow festival, or you can go to the southern part of Japan where it's like some of my friends would post their pictures of like tropical island, and they're on the beach every day after work with a martini, and I'm like, oh, Ine. So, it's like, that looks so nice. So really, or maybe you want to be in Tokyo, right? So really think about where you want to go, so that when they ask you, you can really give 3 choices that you can be really excited about going to. And then I worked at the elementary and middle school level. I worked for the Board of Education for the city. If you work for the city, you'll probably work for the elementary and middle school, and you'll be on a rotational basis with a bunch of different schools. If you work for the municipal, like the prefecture, which is kind of like county for us, if you work for the municipal level, you'll probably be placed at the high school level and you'll be at one school your entire time. But I was rotated between a lot of schools. So I probably taught at, I think it was maybe 6 or 7 middle schools and probably like 20 or 30 elementary schools during my time there, because they would rotate me to a new middle school and then 2 or 3 new elementary schools. And I would stay at those schools for maybe 6 or 7 months, and then they would rotate you to another school. So I got the chance to work at really, really big sort of inner city schools where there's a lot of students and there's a lot going on. And I also got the opportunity to work at some very rural mountain schools where there were like 8 students in the entire school. And I had to take a bus all the way, I had to take the bus all the way to the end of one line, which was like an hour, and then wait at the bus stop for 20 minutes, and then take the next bus to the end of its line for like 40 minutes, and then walk for 30 minutes through the mountains. And it was, let me tell you, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was like beautiful farm fields, and the obachans would come and be like, oh, we hear something. Thank you for teaching our grandchildren. Here's some vegetables we grew in our garden. It was really, the really small schools, really, really deep in the mountains were, I do have to say those were my favorite. Those were just really magical experiences. But the JET program it's just amazing. I would really recommend it. I actually have some pictures I want to show you. So can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Feel free to.
Okay. So I just pulled up some pictures from Facebook. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. So here's a picture of like some of the food that I could eat while I was over there. So you can see like that's just a giant piece of tuna. Incredible. We shared it. So this was at like when you work in Japan, you have parties with your coworkers, and they're not mandatory, but they're kind of mandatory. So like, but they're fun. It's something that you actually want to go. So, right. But it's a good chance to talk to your coworkers. So like this is like some sushi in Japan. You can see like the tuna, shrimp, and the different like scallop. Maybe you can see my favorite is katsudon, which is fried pork cutlet with like egg. It's so good. I ate way too much of it. It's my favorite. And there's just so much good Japanese food that you can eat. And actually, I think it's Tokyo I think this is true, has the highest concentration of Michelin star restaurants in the world. So the food is really like an art form in Japan, and they take a lot of care and attention to detail with the food. And there was a ramen shop near me where you could get this like enormous bowl of ramen for like $5, which is like, and I love cooking, but you can't prepare like a really good meal for like $5. Like it'd be hard to prepare it that cheaply. So you could just go and eat really, really good food for very cheap in Japan. And when I moved to Japan, like I lost a lot of weight just because it's also very healthy. It's really good, but it's also really healthy is the thing too. And I didn't have a car in Japan, and you don't really need a car. You can walk everywhere, and public transportation is really, really good. So you can take a train everywhere you need to go. Another thing I really like about Japan is the different festivals, or if you like anime or manga or action figures or video games, like Japan is the absolute best place in the world for that. So this is the Shizuoka Hobby Show. Shizuoka is the plastic model action figure capital of the world. So every year they have a show where they show off the new designs. So you can see these are like the Gundams that they had on display that year. Dragon Ball Z action figures. He's like you can see he's like zapping him like way Majin Buu down there. But it's really like the the culture over there is very different. There's me. It's a while ago. You can see it's a really big show too. My hair was a little shorter. But yeah, Japan is just incredible. Yeah, like this one too with the Gundam. But anyway, so I love the different you know um things that you have access to over there. There, and if you can go to Akihabara and see all of the anime manga stuff. I have some more pictures. Maybe I can show you. This is the last of the pictures. So this is like at the izakaya, or wait, uh, this is like the izakaya where you go, and this was like nomi hodai, tabe hodai, which is all you can eat, all you can drink. So like I'm way here in the back, but you could see like we're drinking with friends and stuff. This is the hanami, which is the Japanese cherry blossom festival. So you go and you sit on like and eat and drink and barbecue underneath the blooming cherry trees in the spring. It's very, very beautiful, very peaceful. This is like, I went to the fish market. So this is like a cut of tuna. You can see the layers. It was really good. And this was really cheap. Actually, this maybe like $10 or $12 for all that food. It's so cheap. This is like in Tokyo. I think we were having fun that night. And this is like at the Shinjuku Robot Cafe outside, which just looks really weird. But if you go to Tokyo, you should go to the Robot Cafe. It's the best. Don't look in it.
Unfortunately, it shut down over COVID. Like, yeah, I think it went out of business, unfortunately.
Are you serious? Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I was pretty upset about it too, because I was like wanting to go there, but yeah, no, I think it's gone.
Oh no. Okay, well maybe it'll come back because it was really popular, so I'm sure they'll bring it back. But Japan it's really nice, and it's very safe, very safe. And the Japanese people are very honest and hardworking. And like I remember when I went on the JET program, like I had my wallet with the rent money, which was maybe like $500 or something for the rents, and all the money to pay my bills. So a lot of money in my wallet, and I dropped my wallet on the ground, and someone found it and turned it in to the police station, and all the money was still in there. So like hundreds of dollars. So that just gives you an idea. And actually, like one time I was, at the restaurant, and I had this like umbrella that looked like a samurai sword, and I forgot my umbrella at the restaurant, and I went back to that restaurant like 4 months later, a long time later, like 3 or 4 months later, and the restaurant owner, she was like so excited when she saw me. She was like, "Oh, I have your umbrella," and like so. It's just really safe. I never felt unsafe in Japan, like ever. Okay, no worries. Thank you, Dr. Faupel. Um, um, but Japan is so beautiful. It's so clean. It's so safe. And if you're interested in studying abroad, or you're interested in the JET program, I really strongly recommend you to do it, because yeah, it's gonna change your life. I know it did me, and so now I'm back in the U.S. and I'm studying to get my master's in computer science. But I want to return to Japan and make video games, or maybe try to work with the Japanese Space Agency in the future if I can. But if you have any questions, please feel free. I can stay for a little longer if anybody wants to have ask me some things.
Out of curiosity, how fluent in Japanese were you before you studied abroad in Kansai Gaidai?
Oh, I was not fluent at all. But so maybe when I went to Kansai Gaidai, I maybe knew hiragana and katakana, and maybe some basic conversation. But maybe Yamamoto Sensei can tell you, when I was in undergraduate, I wasn't always the best student. And so, but I was able to learn some things because Yamamoto sensei is a really good teacher. So I was able to learn a lot of things, but because of Yamamoto sensei, not because of me. So.
I think, like your level was really, really good, and also that one of the disadvantage in this area, there are not so many Japanese speaking native speaker, So compared to the people from the big cities like San Francisco, New York, that you are not really exposed to the immerse yourself into Japanese environment, but that's why that you went to study abroad, and now look at yourself, you're not like you are fluent. So
thank you. You're ありがとうございます。
don't worry. If you don't speak Japanese, it's okay that, because you go there and study and you come back, then everything is okay. So
yeah, you really don't have to worry about it. If you are still learning Japanese, maybe you're like a level 5 on the N5, which is like the beginning level, it's okay. So, but I would really challenge you if you study abroad or if you go to the JET program, to sometimes it's very easy to, and it's because it's very comfortable to make friends with the foreigners because you can speak English and it's easy. But I would challenge you to, if you study abroad, to go out of your way to make Japanese friends so you can practice. Because it's really easy to kind of get into that bubble, that English speaking bubble, and you have your English speaking friends, but really push yourself and challenge yourself to make friends with the Japanese students because they really want to be friends with you. So it's a really good chance. So yeah.
I have one other question. Is there anything that you would tell people who are looking into studying abroad right now, like just some tips and tricks of studying abroad in Japan?
Yes. So maybe that's a good question. So yeah.
And my advice is like be open-minded. That's the best, like very, very important things because Japan is completely different from, Logan, from United States, like for food, like something like lifestyle, like housing situation, it's completely different. So if you're not open-minded and then go there and then think, oh my goodness, this is so different. I don't like this. I don't like this, like you can't survive there. So I would like the students to learn like how to appreciate the difference, oh, it's different. Well, but it's good. I would like to learn, try, that's kind of a attitude I'd like the students to have. And that's my advice for everybody going to study abroad.
Yes, I think that's really good advice, to just be open-minded and explore, take the chance to explore. And I would also recommend you can buy a bicycle while you're there and you can sell it when you leave for maybe, like, you can get one for maybe less than $100. But a bicycle will really allow you to kind of explore your local area a lot more than you can on foot. And it's usually very flat, so it's easy to bicycle around. But maybe be open and maybe have a time where, because I got a little affected by the homesickness maybe towards the middle of my stay. But so if you can have some food that you can make that sort of reminds you of home whenever you feel that way, that can really help. But also when you get if you get homesick, sometimes the best thing to do is just really put yourself out there even more and really push yourself and kind of remind yourself like why you came, why you're there, all the things you want to do. And so, and maybe plan in advance your time some, because you can sort of prepare, like maybe you can look at the class schedule and you can see, oh, I have a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend, right? So kind of plan, where do you want to go? Because that's your chance to go to Tokyo, go to Kyoto, or go to Osaka, maybe on the weekend. Actually, Kansai is in Osaka, so you can always go to Osaka. It's right there. You just jump on the train and you're in Osaka. But if you want to go to Tokyo, like there's maybe the 4-day weekend or the 5-day weekend where you can have more time to go and explore, and maybe go with a friend to Tokyo, so it's not so scary, because the first time in Tokyo can be, there's a lot of people, so it can be, it's a new experience. So it's a really good chance to kind of change your mindset. But just the best advice I could, tip or trick, is if you're thinking about it, is to do it. That's sort of the best tip or advice I can give, is just do it, because it's gonna change your life. I know maybe that sounds kind of corny, but it's gonna change your life and in a really good way. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. All right, well, thank you all so much again for coming, and thank you, Logan and Yamamoto Sensei, for talking with us. If you guys don't mind though, I know Yamamoto Sensei already put your email in the chat. Logan, if you don't mind having people contact you if they have any other questions, can you drop your email in the chat as well?
Yes, sure. So you can email me. This is my school email. And also, if you want help with the study abroad or the JET program or the bridging scholarship application, so I received the bridging scholarship, so I can help you if you want help. I can help you prepare for the scholarship, and kind of help you if you need to like kind of get an idea of what they're looking for, because it's also for the bridging scholarship. They're looking for specific things. They want somebody with an open mind, and they want somebody who is going to have like a lifelong interest in Japan. That's I think maybe the type of person that they want to give the scholarship to, that somebody who will be an ambassador for Japanese culture throughout their whole life. They want to see that, maybe they look for that kind of thing. But yes, please email me if you have more questions or you want help with the application. Yeah, please reach out.
All right, thank you so much again, and I will stop the recording.